Our guest this week, for those non-wrestling fans, WWE Hall of Famer, TNA Hall of Famer, over 20 tag team championships as the Dudley Boys. One of the hosts of Busted Open radio show on Sirius XM channel 158. Longtime buddy of mine, but most importantly, after going to the rock concert down in South Florida in Key West, he's a large man with no liver. That's probably the most important thing. Is that all those facts there, Bubba Ray?
24-time World Tag Team Champion.
I said over 20.
As one of my closest, you should know that.
I said over 20. I was like making it think so people would be like, is it 28? But now you ruined it and said 24.
It's 24.
Yeah, I know. I said over 20. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing? I love your studio.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I've always liked your backdrop. Like when I watch the videos that you guys put out for Busted Open, and I figured you were doing it from your house because I listen on a daily basis. It's a great show for the wrestling fan and for the non-wrestling fan. It's a great makeup, great chemistry. But I thought by now you would be back in the studio, but you're not.
There's really no reason for me to go back into the studio. And I never really was in the studio. When I first signed up with Fight Nation and Busted Open, we were 2 to 5 Eastern time. And I used to go do the show from ESPN. But once the show got bigger and we moved to morning drive across, the whole US, I guess,
yeah.
They said, hey, we'll set you up in the house. And there's really no reason to leave. It's a nice little gig.
Yeah, right now I can hear what Nate's thinking in his head because, I got fired in October. Nate lives in Mexico, and so he does this show from Mexico. But the radio station, they didn't want to rehire him. This is when I was still there because they said it was, what'd they say, Nate? It was illegal for you to work there, right?
Yeah, but they just didn't want to try.
Well, no, it was the beginning of the end. It was the whole thing was a setup, to get it was a big plan, a big conspiracy. And then Brandon over here, Bubba Ray, I got him hired finally after being a fantastic intern. And then when I got fired 2 weeks later, he calls me up. He's like, I can get the fuck out of here. These people are horrible. And I was like, I don't blame you. You come work for Bailey Entertainment LLC. And we're thinking that in 2022, Bailey Entertainment LLC will be one of the top 10 places to work in the country. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Your mic's not on, except for stuff like that. So before we talk wrestling and all that shit, I want to know about the rock concert. Because I almost, before I saw you going down to the Keys, it's just, what was it called? Because it had Bret Michaels, it had Skid Row. It had Night Ranger. It had everybody. What was it called?
The name of the festival was Rock Island. It was the first one that they did down there in Key West.
Yeah, Rock Island. So Rachel saw the ads. This was like a couple months ago. It was like on Brett's page. And she was like, what do you think? And then we just never talked about it. But there was a time when I was going to go down there. And the next thing I see is on your social media, you not only were hanging with your boys from Jersey, but then you mixed it with the crew from Daytona. And I was a part of the Daytona crew. Holy fuck, you guys, like, there's no way I could have lasted more than 5 hours with both of those people, those crews.
I have not seen my friend Chris from Daytona, who used to be the manager of Lollipops.
Yeah.
In the long, probably we haven't hung out or seen each other for about 10 years. So, we were talking leading up to the festival about we're finally going to meet up. So day of show, I FaceTimed him and he sent me straight to voicemail. And he texted me. He's like, are you really FaceTiming me? That's so stupid. Guys don't FaceTime. So I'm like, yeah, it was me. And I FaceTimed him right back and he picks up and I'm like, dude, where are you? And he's like, well, I'm over here. I'm by this tent. I'm like, wait, I'm by the tent too. He was standing 3 feet away from me while we were FaceTiming each other. We had no idea we're in the same spot. So it's pretty funny. So getting to hang out with him and see him, plus my normal boys, my inner circle from Jersey, who we can do some damage. And we did about 4 days straight of nonstop balls to the wall, grip it and rip it, just destroy your liver with as much tequila as you possibly can.
As much as I wanted to make your birthday weekend in Jersey, there was a factor that went into it where I was afraid. And I mean, like your Jersey friends, the pictures that I see, my favorite is the dude that's like mad ripped with the tattoos. Like, he's the coolest action figure on social media. That guy's amazing. But
that is Filthy Phil.
Filthy Phil. Yeah.
Yes.
He's my favorite action figure of the Bubba Ray Dudley Jersey crew, by the way. Not to take anything away from the rest of them, but just as far as the visual goes. But you guys, I mean, you know, we're not getting any younger, buddy. I understand we got to live life, but that liver is screaming in you, I'm sure.
Listen, we can sleep when we're dead. As the Def Leppard song says, it's better to burn out than fade away. Yeah. And in no way, shape, or form am I ever going to fade away. I want to burn out. And if I'm going to burn out, I want to burn out at a place like Rock Island, drinking tequila with my friends, listening to Bret Michaels, Dee Snider, Skid Row, and all the other great bands that were there that night.
So where did you go for your hookup? Did you go through Snake and Skid Row?
Oh yeah, Snake. We actually bought tickets. We actually, I like to support the cause. So we bought our tickets, and then Snake hooked us up with, like, you know, the backstage passes and the VIP stuff and all that, you know, fun stuff. And then we hung out with Snake after the show. It was a great time. Weather was perfect. The bands were good. Like, some bands just didn't quite cut it. Mm. But as you know, you're a huge Poison fan like I am, big Bret Michaels guy. Us two making complete fools of ourselves like 15 years ago at the House of Blues in Orlando when we got to sing Nothing But a Good Time with Poison on stage. Yeah. Highlight of my life, by the way, or one of the highlights of my life. Performed in front of 70,000 people in the Astrodome at WrestleMania. Singing with Poison in front of 1,000 people in Orlando probably topped it. So Bret Michaels puts on a phenomenal show. He's such a good dude. He's so likable, connects with the audience so well. Skid Row just tore it up. Dee Snider at 66 still has so much energy. It was the first time I ever saw Cheap Trick.
Oh, they're great.
I mean, it was the best time. It was the best time. So, and in Florida, you know, COVID restrictions, there really aren't any. Yeah. So, you know, kind of like freedom.
Yeah, but it was outside too. So even if you are, you know, worried about it, it was the perfect setup and everything. I was messaging back and forth with Brad, the guitarist from Night Ranger. Not that I'm friends with him, but I'm trying to get him on the show, and we just happened to be connected on LinkedIn or something. And like, I was talking with, I think, you at the same time I was talking with him. And I was like, yeah, if you're a wrestling fan, have a look out for my buddy Bubba Ray Dudley. He also goes by Bully Ray. Feel free to call him Mark. You know, just trying to, you know, have some type of conversation with the guy. You know, it's like trying to butter him up to come on the show. Did you, when I saw that you were there talking with Bret Michaels, did you remind him of our House of Blues night? I'm sure he remembers.
So this is pretty funny. That picture is not Bret Michaels.
What?
That's some dude that from behind just happened to look like Bret Michaels, and I knew I would get everybody with that post. I obviously got you.
Pop. That was awesome. So did you get any one-on-one with Bret?
No, I didn't even try. Like, I really, I'm there to just, you know, hang out, have fun with my buddies. The whole backstage thing, I'm only going to do it if I'm really tight with the people. And I'm not tight with Bret like I am Snake. I mean, me and Snake talk once a week. We've established, you know, quite the friendship. But yeah, that wasn't Bret. And, you know, I'm sure Bret would remember me, and I would have reminded him of that time because, as you know, he's such a nice guy when you meet him in person. Yeah. And I'm very much looking forward to, you know, the big stadium tour coming up. Hopefully it's going to happen. I mean, I think it really will happen with Joan Jett, Poison, Def Leppard, and Motley Crue.
Yeah, but the X factor of that whole thing is Vince Neil. Oof, he's got Weight Watchers, or they just can't do it. I mean, because we've both seen Vince when he's chunky and he misses every third word and he relies on the audience. And the good thing he's got going for him is he's got the 80s growl, you know, where he can just kind of go, and, you know, just all the words go together. So,
and the thing about it is Vince only has to be like fair to Midland. Just just be a little bit better than you were in the past, and just get into rock and roll shape. I mean, Joe Elliott is going to look good and he's going to sound good. You know damn well that Bret Michaels is going to look good and sound good. And I think the narrative or the talking point about this tour is going to be how bad Vince looked if Vince doesn't get in better shape. And I don't think anybody wants, especially Nikki Sixx, he doesn't want that negativity, coming down on Motley Crue. And you don't want this huge stadium tour. You don't want the number one talking point to be, how bad Vince looked. Right. So if Vince is smart, he gets on some really good gas, loses a bunch of weight, puts on some muscle. I say move down to Atlanta, go hang out with DDP for 5 months because Page will whip him into shape.
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned that to Dallas a while back. I think when the tour was announced, I said it was a bit. And I actually, no, I did. Nate, I did a bit on the air about this, didn't I? Didn't we try to get a social media thing for people to reach out? Yeah, it was to reach out to Vince. And actually, I got a little backlash, and people were like, it's not politically correct to call somebody fat. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, fucking relax. But yeah, we tried to, and we had Dallas on the air too, I think, to get him. That's a great gimmick. You guys should do that. Your audience for Busted Open, that's where you do it. You've got the audience to do it there.
I don't want to make fun of Vince, and I don't want to bring any negativity down on him. But listen, if I'm going to see Motley Crue for the last time, I'd at least want the lead singer to sound good. Right. You can layer your clothing up or whatever, but I just want you to sound good. Just sing the songs the way I remember them, because that's what Bret Michaels does. That's what Joe Elliott's going to do. Yeah. That's what Joan Jett's going to do.
Yeah. Well, so, the 3 times, the 3 Motley Crue reunions, you and I went to the first one together, and it was amazing. And then the second time I saw them, I want to say it was it was like Chicago or something like that. I just happened to be in town, and it was okay. And then there was the other time, and I think you and I might have been together on this one too. We were in Tampa, and it was it was 6 a.m. and Papa Roach and Motley Crue, and it was when they put out the Angel
Crue Fest. Was it Crue Fest?
Crue Fest. Yeah, it was the first Crue Fest. Yes.
Yeah.
And 6 a.m., Nikki Sixx is a rock star. Like that band, DJ Ashba, all those guys, huge fans. And they knocked it out of the park. Opened up. Papa Roach, I'm always a fan. Live, Jacoby's amazing. And then Vince comes out, and Mick and Tommy and everybody, they're doing their jobs. It's like you have one job. Aging's not one of them. You can't control that. You have one job. Don't be fat. That's all you can do. That's all you have to do. Don't be fat. Like, for millions and millions of dollars, don't be fat. You have to be able to do that. So hopefully he will.
Listen, as a huge Motley Crue fan, I'm hoping they're hitting on all cylinders, that they sound great. They always give us a great show. It's just, it's on Vince. Vince has to look and sound the part.
So for those that are listening, and Bubba's brought up the Poison thing years ago. We were together, it was a very long time ago. It was like 2000, I want to say 7. We were at the House of Blues in Orlando, and it was like New Year's or something like that. It was a big to-do. Poison was performing, and Bret, when he got back with Poison after the 25th reunion, he would start to bring people up on stage with him at the end. So some months prior, because I was doing radio in Tampa, it was the first time I actually interviewed Bret on my show there, and he brought me and my show up at the time in Tampa, and I look like an idiot. I mean, it's very difficult to perform like a rock star when you're not a rock star. And so I was like, can we do it again? So we did it, but little did I know that Brad from Three Doors would be there, Edwin McCain would be there, and Bubba and I are together, so we go up together on stage, and drunk fat Jason, Affliction shirt, peg leg jeans wearing Bailey, feels the need to take center stage drunk as shit. This YouTube video exists, and I'm always embarrassed when I watch it. That's why I try not to watch it. The funniest part there's a lot of funny parts. Brad Arnold knew none of the words. I still tease him about it to this day. High as a kite. Edwin McCain, he was like just there. But one of my favorite parts is I'm singing on Bret's mic, which I should not have been. I shouldn't even been up there. Bubba's got a microphone all to his own. It's actually Bobby Dahl's mic.
Bobby Dahl's, yeah.
And Bobby, he's not singing. He's just playing. He's doing bass. But Bubba's commandeered his microphone. Like, this very large man is behind this microphone at a crowd of about 2,600 people. And like towards the end, because his wife at the time was with us, just like there was the perfect spot in the whole performance where he goes, "I love you, Dawn."
Did I really?
Yeah, the whole world. It's one of my favorite parts of the story. Every time I tell it, there it is. Nate's got it.
Get that fucking video off the screen right now. Oh my God.
It was like
so bad.
It was
so bad.
It was all I wanted to do the entire time was relive the video at the end where they have the anthem version of it, in the video, Brett's got the mic stand, he's pushing it up, and that's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to reenact it. But there's that lull when it breaks down, and that's when Bubba got it. He's like, and it was muffled too. He's like, "I love you, Dawn."
I thought I raised my hands in the end. I was like, "This is the greatest night of my life." I could wrestle for the WWE in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Oh my God. Ugh.
Wearing
awful.
I think you're wearing the AC/DC shirt I gave you for Christmas.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, look at this dumb fat radio stupid idiot in center stage when he's surrounded by real celebrities. What an idiot! I can't watch it. Take it away.
You were living your best life at the moment.
At the moment, yeah. I was totally living my best life. So that's good. I'm actually going to reach out to Snake too to have him on. He's always really pleasant to have him on. I actually, I was doing some research. Matt Kramer. Do you know who Matt Kramer is? Okay.
No.
He's was the lead singer of Saigon Kick. Remember Saigon Kick? Love is on the way.
Yep. Remember the band? Yep.
South Florida band. I was always a big fan. Actually, Caleb, my son, for Christmas, bought me, it was just weird that he knew that I would like it. The Saigon Kick album with the green lizard, called the Lizard album, is one of the coolest album covers in my opinion. And I love the band. I love the song. Anyway, so we got that for Christmas. I was like, I'm friends. I didn't realize I was friends with Matt Kramer on Facebook. And I think he's really close with my buddy, Mike Calta in Tampa, who does radio. And so I reached out to him because he wrote this long thread. Like, he's got so much heat with those band members. And I was like, oh, that's a great story. I'd love to know it. He just doesn't want to do any interviews. But one of the members of Saigon Kick, Phil Verone, is in Skid Row. I don't know if he's currently in Skid Row, but he was in Skid Row, I believe.
Was in Skid Row.
Was in Skid Row. All right. Is there heat between him and Snake?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
No, we've never talked about him.
All right. I don't want to touch it. I'm always fascinated how rock and roll is so incestual. It's like, you just don't know where somebody's been. You look at, Taylor from Foo Fighters was once with Alanis Morissette. It's just like, it's always so ancestral. It amazes me.
Snake has some great stories, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's been on. Wrestling's ancestral too, right? I mean, very similar.
Oh, yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
I'm not talking about banging people backstage. I'm talking about crossing over different gimmicks, different promotions. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was talking about all of that. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
You think that now with, because I think right now wrestling's living a new glory moment, which is a good thing as a wrestling fan. I think it's more mainstream than it was like 5 years ago. Let's put it that way. I think a lot of that, and this is not just me kissing your ass and your show's ass, but I do credit that to your radio program, Busted Open, because I believe Busted Open is the ESPN Sports Center to wrestling as ESPN Sports Center is to other major league events. Now they have a home base to get the word out for the product. So to you, that's a lot of credit in your team there. But with all the different not federations, but promotions, it's hot again, right? It's happening.
It's not necessary. It's hotter than it was 5 years ago. That's for sure. And the one company that has, popped up over the past couple of years is AEW. And AEW has been able to capture that same kind of fan interest and energy and attention that ECW did, like 25 years ago. AEW is like the best of ECW, the best of the Attitude Era in the WWE, the best of WCW back in the day. And they've thrown it into one. And it's an alternative to the WWE, and you still have Impact Wrestling out there. Another company that's coming up is called GCW, Game Changer Wrestling. So yes, more than 5 years ago, but it's nowhere near what it was back in the day. I think pro wrestling has been whittled down to its base audience, its target audience. You can tell by looking at the ratings that it's the diehards that are watching every single week. The TV ratings is not a perfect way of gauging everything, but when the rating is good, everybody wants to scream at the top of their lungs how great the rating is. But if the rating is bad, it's like, oh, it's such an outdated system. It still is what it is. If you have if you build it, they will come. If the people want to see your product, they will watch. Back in the day, Attitude Era, the WWE is doing 7.1, 7.5 ratings. Now it's doing a 1.5 to a 1.7.
Well, that's
a big difference.
Yeah, but that's relative also to, during the Attitude Era, there weren't as many options to watch it or get that, viewership. The same thing with radio. It's just that throughout time, technology has watered down, the way people listen, absorb the medium.
I totally understand that. But if you have a product that people have to see, they'll be glued in front of their TV set. I'd much rather watch something in front of my TV than on a phone. Now, I know I'm a 50-year-old man as opposed to a 20-year-old who might be used to, staring at his cell phone all day. But if you have something interesting, if you create enough of a sense of urgency, I do believe people will be parked in front of their television set to watch it.
But you have to find, what made the Attitude Era, so infamous, so famous. You were a part of that, and ECW it's the shock jock. It's the Stern, thing. It's what are you doing to titillate and to go against the grain? It's very difficult, and I know this from my side of things, is to push those buttons because we live in such a pansied up PC world where, the one, vocal minority becomes the mass majority. And we're just stuck in this rut until we can find a way out of it, however that may be, whenever that may be. So how do you find that thing that's going to get under people's skin to make them want to watch?
Well, there is a guy right now. His name is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF.
Yeah.
And he is doing and saying things right now that you wouldn't think you can get away with on television, on social media. He's taking shots at everybody. He's pissing everybody off. But because wrestling fans love to hate him, they're not going to really bitch, moan, and complain about it.
Right.
I just think that everybody is so afraid of being hated these days, so afraid of, the wrestling terminology is getting heat, especially on social media. Everybody is chasing the hug. They want the likes. They want the retweets. So even the bad guys can't be the bad guys anymore. That's what wrestling is suffering from.
I don't know who the bad guy is anymore.
Exactly. Listen, if Satan doesn't have any heat, Jesus can't blow a comeback. And without Darth Vader, right, Luke Skywalker is just a whiny bitch from Tatooine.
Yeah, exactly.
As Darth Helmet said, good is dumb.
That's what I tell these guys all the time is everything revolves around good and bad, black and white. You have to have the good, the bad. I know this is kind of a way outside the box analogy, but, I'm a big tennis guy and I host a tennis tournament. Tennis is one of those sports, just like golf or any of these, even Major League Baseball and stuff, where there are all these media trained, kind of watered down, canned answers and stuff. And I'm like, if you're playing in the United States and I'm the voice guy and I'm announcing these dudes, I need to put over the guy from the United States, especially here locally. Let the Russian be the bad guy. It's like, why not do it like that for the entertainment purposes? They just have to suck it up and not have such a thin skin.
I would much rather see John McEnroe talk shit to Jimmy Connors than anything else.
Yeah.
I'd much rather see Martina Navratilova be that stoic Eastern Bloc European heel. Mm-hmm. And I want to see Chris Everett try to beat her.
Right. Well, that's what I
wanted to watch it because there was an entertainment factor to it.
polarizing, we were talking about this on the show the other week. Polarizing is good. Unfortunately, the people that make power decisions, whether it's in television or radio, they don't buy into polarizing because of, especially in radio, the rating system. One person can ruin it all. So you got to try to please everybody. That's why this podcast world is great. Satellite for you, you know, and also you guys do the podcast for Busted Open, but every single episode of every podcast, I say, is a polarizing radio bit. Polarizing to an audience that doesn't agree with whatever it is you're talking about. And it's fine because it's on demand. You know, you're seeking it out to listen to it. It's not in the public forum. So that's why I keep saying I think I'm done with corporate radio for at least a little while.
You are a bit polarizing, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I'm just so fucking over it. so many people I just want to drop kick in the back of the brainstem. Would I be correct, and feel free to not announce this on your show, but you can do it on mine. The reason that you've gotten ripped like a 21-year-old kid is that you're going to be entering the Royal Rumble in a couple weeks?
Not only am I entering the Royal Rumble in a couple of weeks, I am going to win the Royal Rumble.
Excellent. All right. There you
go. And then I'm going to challenge either Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania in front of 100,000 people in Dallas, Texas at AT&T Stadium.
God, I thought it was going to be more difficult to get that out of you. Well,
that's it. I just stooged it off. Breaking news.
Let me push the envelope. Who would you rather, Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar?
Oh, I'm going to defeat Brock Lesnar.
Oh.
And what I'm thinking about doing is defeating Brock Lesnar on night 1 and then challenging Roman Reigns and defeating him on night 2.
As the Bully Ray character.
Absolutely. So huge spoiler alert right here on your podcast.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
I would love to see the Bully Ray character. I saw the Bully Ray character born in TNA / Impact Wrestling when you worked for them there when we were in Orlando. I think that's one of the most clever characters in the past 15-ish years in the business, because it is polarizing, but you can do so many different things with that character. You can go extremely over the top dark heel, or you can make, or what you'd want to make is that dark heel become this amazing baby face. The story's already written in the name.
So Bully Ray came within 48 hours of debuting on Monday Night Raw. It was going to happen. And then at the very, very last minute, I got a call from Vince McMahon, and he just couldn't pull the trigger on it. And one of the reasons why at that time in 2016, the WWE had a full-blown anti-bullying campaign called Be a Star going on. And it was across the entire planet. And he's like, I just can't have somebody named Bully on my show. He loved the idea. So it almost happened. And what was going to happen was Bully Ray was going to be the same type of heel you saw in TNA wrestling, Impact Wrestling. And then after about a year, somebody was going to beat Bully Ray and make him see the error of his ways. And now Bully Ray would be one of the spokespeople for the Be a Star campaign and telling all the kids why I was a bully at one time. Now I realize it's wrong and you shouldn't be a bully. And Vince really, really loved the idea. He just thought he would get killed as a publicly traded company and as a as a company with an anti-bullying campaign, having a character named that. But as we see in the WWE, somebody is always playing the bully. And who is the biggest bully character of all time? Vince McMahon.
Right, exactly. Well, that's what I was going to say. It's just the name. I mean, if you were just Ray, or right. Brother Ray or J Ray or Ray Bay or whatever you want it to be called, it's just the idea of having bully in your name.
Correct.
Yeah. Were you open to changing it? Did you have any other options?
So there were I gave him another one. I said, listen, we don't have to call it Bully Ray. We can call the Intimidator, Bubba Ray, which doesn't nearly have the same ring. But he was worried at the time about the over-the-top bullying character. So the name was the number one thing that he had a hard time with.
Yeah.
But then having this uber bully character. So it just didn't work. And you know what? He called me personally. We had 3 conversations about this, which is the number one thing you need to do with Vince McMahon is establish a relationship with him. And I'm proud to say that I always had a great relationship with the man. Say what you got to say. Don't be a pussy about it. Be a man. I've never feared Vince McMahon. I always respected Vince McMahon because I get the straightest answers from Vince McMahon. And if I didn't understand something, he would take the time to explain it to me because he knew that I wanted to understand and I had a thirst for the knowledge.
Yeah.
We had 3 conversations. It was going to happen. Then he picked up the phone personally. He didn't have to do that. He's got an entire department that he pays a lot of money to deal with talent. But because he told me yes, and he had to go back on that yes and tell me no, he called me personally. I said, no problem, boss. And he said, I'll see you down the road, which means one day we'll work again.
Yeah. Or you could have gone, like the old WCW humongous. Remember you could have gone Bull Ethan Ray. And it's just when you came out, it would be Bull E.Ray.
Yeah, now you sound like some of the callers who call into Busted Open with god-awful ideas.
Now I got to the point, and I'm done. And I'm now hanging up. I'm only bringing this up because I have an ulterior motive. I don't want to go deep into the whole stuff for the wrestling fan between you and Devon that was released. There's this the back and forth kind of thing. But I got to tell you something about your old tag team partner. I called him up, and I hadn't talked to him in a very long time, to get the 411 on this guy that hosts his podcast. And he was up for the producer job for my radio show when I was there. And he puts him over to the moon, with the exception of a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I took his word as gospel, all right, so I get it. I helped them out a little bit on their podcast. I consulted, gave him a little advice, did what I could because he asked for it. And then this producer guy, I didn't think he was the best guy for the job, but I only was picking between 2 people. Anyway, because of this master plan, he gets pulled in, gets hired, and I get fired. I am determined that this motherfucker was in on it from day one. And I don't know if Devon knew about it or not, but the more I think about it, the more angry I get, the more pissed off I get. So anyway, if you ever talk to the guy again, tell him to stop putting over his people because they're assholes.
So what exactly would you like me to tell him? Like verbatim? Because I'll say it to his face just to watch him crumble in front of me.
The people around, quote unquote, the people around you are assholes. Stop telling people.
Oh, you want me to say this to Devon?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, to Devon.
You want me to call him?
Yeah, no, just say it next time.
Should we get him on the phone right now?
No, when you're at the Royal Rumble, because he works, the backstage stuff at WWE, when you bump into him, just say, oh, by the way, Bailey said the people. You're
going to say it the right way. When I win the Royal Rumble.
Is that not what I said? I thought I said that. I thought
yeah.
I'm just.
And I listen, what Devon said was such old news, and it's the way the dirt sheets, the National Enquirers, the TMZs of pro wrestling decided to, use the headlines. It made it seem like there was a fire where there wasn't even smoke. Yeah, me and Devon decided to go our separate ways 5 years ago. We decided to no longer do business together because there was no more business left to be done. I moved from Florida to the Northeast. We could not remain partners in our wrestling school. Thus, Devon held on to the wrestling school in Florida. I opened up a new wrestling school in Connecticut. Devon wanted to have his name on his own school because he wanted to. And I said, go for it.
Yeah.
I kept the Team 3D name. But because of the way social media is, and they want to be so negative about things, they twist it and they turn it. There is zero heat between me and Devon. Zero.
Yeah, the internet did not write it out that way. And I actually texted you after I read the article. I think I called you. I was like, wow, this is juicy. Are you guys talking about this on your radio show? You're like, dude, this is blown way out of proportion. This is not even close to what's happening.
There's zero. And me and Devon saw each other for the first time about a month ago. We haven't seen each other in about 3 years, just because our lives have gone in totally different directions. He's in Florida. I'm in the Northeast. We just haven't crossed paths. You got to remember, we were attached at the hip for 20 years.
Yeah.
A marriage. Eventually, you go your separate ways.
That's longer than a lot of marriages, actually.
Yeah.
Including my first one. Yeah.
Yeah, he had to do his thing. I'm doing my thing. So we saw each other. The minute we saw each other, we're hugging. Hey, bro, how you doing? What's going on? Like zero heat. As a matter of fact, I got a text yesterday from, do you remember Big Dick Dudley?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I saw your
Big
post
Dick
about
Dudley,
that.
one of the Dudley brothers, one of our best friends. His son, about 25, 26 years old. He's a boxer. He's a Muay Thai guy, MMA guy. He's like, listen, Bubba, I want to see if I can follow in my dad's footsteps. I want to see if I can do this. I said, no problem. He lives in Florida. I called Devon. I said, hey, Big Dick's kid wants to train. He's like, no problem. Send him to me. It's all good. Like, so whatever was said on the internet is just, like you said, it's blown out of proportion. There's no issues there. Zero.
Yeah, but the good stuff.
And you know what the wrestling world should be worried about, especially tag team wrestling. Every tag team on the fucking planet today should worry that they wake up one day and me and Devon decide to get back together just because we can. Because then they're all fucked.
Who would you, if you guys got back together, let's say the Royal Rumble, the Dudley boys back together. No, just an independent show. You can pick any tag team from any promotion to wrestle. Who would you want to wrestle as a tag team?
There aren't many teams out there that we have not wrestled. So I'm going to pick a team that we have wrestled, that we had incredible chemistry with, which was the Young Bucks, who are very popular right now with AEW wrestling.
Right.
They're EVPs of AEW, executive vice presidents.
Yeah.
They're cornerstones of starting the company up.
Did you say you wrestled them before?
We've wrestled them 3 times.
Really?
We've wrestled them once in Impact, TNA, when they were just little kids, scared little kids walking around backstage who did not know their way in the pro wrestling business. And we had a very basic tag team match with them, about 10 minutes. It went really well. And then years later, we worked with them in Toronto at Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore. And we had so much fun. And we basically told the Bucks, whatever style match you guys want to have, we'll have with you. And their style is more of a spot fest heavy, move heavy, maybe lacking on psychology a little bit type of wrestling. But we were like, you know what, guys, we like you. We appreciate you. Here, whatever you want to do. We handed them the reins. We had so much fun. And then there was an independent company called 2CW. And we wrestled them in Syracuse, and we happened to be like the 2CW tag team champions. And we lost the championships to the Bucks that night. And I remember getting on the microphone, and we put them over to the moon, meaning put them over. We spoke very highly of them. And this is before the Young Bucks were anybody in the world. But I personally recognized in them something special, that it factor.
Yeah.
So if I had to go out there one show, just because I'm all about styles making a wrestling match. So if you have the smaller guys in the Bucks against the bigger guys in the Dudleys, and they can fly all around, and we can do our ground and pound, and you put the right psychology into the match, the right story into the match, the right amount of heat into the match, the right amount of comeback and shine and all this is when you get things that are special in wrestling.
Right.
So the Bucks would probably be my number 1 pick just because of the styles making the match.
Yeah. There's always, as a wrestling fan, I was always entertained with the storyline. Like there's more on the line than just winning the match. So like, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, Elizabeth's hands on the line, that kind of stuff where there's more to it than just a win-loss, walk away, or even a championship. There, I think, has to be something more than the tangible in front of you that makes people interested in what the story is going to be. Because everything's about a good story. I don't care what you do for a living. Everything is about a story. Would you agree with that? Like, it's got to be something a little bit more.
If something doesn't have a story in pro wrestling, I'm really not invested.
Yeah.
We are in the storytelling business. We are in the character driven business. When I watch matches that are just all about moves, it's just like watching Cirque du Soleil. And yeah, it's fun to watch, but how many times can you go, ooh, wee, oh, ow? Like it only pops so many times.
Right, yeah.
You're only using one emotion, like the emotion of joy and happiness.
Yeah.
When you're telling a story, there's love, there's hate. You run the gamut of human emotion.
What do you think's the best story ever told in a wrestling ring?
That's impossible. The best story ever told in a wrestling ring is the one that drew the most money.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what storyline, how about that? What storyline with whatever conclusion it was, do you think is the best in the history of wrestling?
Well, let's take the one that drew the biggest house back in the day, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, 93,147 people, whatever it was.
Right.
That story.
Yeah.
There was Austin McMahon. Yeah. That story fueled the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
One of the stories that I'm most appreciative of is the story that I got to tell with Hulk Hogan and Brooke Hogan.
Yeah, the aces and eights.
It's the classic, the pretty young girl likes the bad boy, trying to keep it a secret from dad. Dad doesn't approve. Dad finds out, then realizes the girl is going to run, his little girl is going to run away if, dad doesn't accept the guy. And then what does the bad guy do? He winds up screwing everybody over.
Yeah. What about the Savage Jake the Snake Cobra? That story.
Sure. I mean, that was good, but it was not nearly as good as, Andre and Hulk or Austin McMahon or Flair and Dusty or the Horsemen and the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express.
Yeah.
These are real stories.
Yeah, those are good stories. I agree. I got a question for you. So, there's all these wrestlers lately that, have been let go, like from the WWE, and they were big names like Braun Strowman. Like we had just had him on the radio show not that long before. He was a great guest, very nice guy. And, but he's huge. He's like 6'7", 6'8", 300 pounds of just ripped. I mean, the guy can't just go to Best Buy and get a job, and I'm sure that these guys made some pretty good coin when they were with the WWE, and there's not always going to be a place for them to go, like in another promotion. I'm sure they could run the indie circuit, I guess, as long as they want. But once you have that name, where do you go after that? Where do these people go? What do they do?
Well, the WWE is not the only place to work on the planet. There's Japan. There are other companies in the United States. There's AEW. There's Impact Wrestling. There's the NWA, owned by Billy Corgan. You might not make as much money in these companies as you would the WWE. You might not have as much worldwide exposure, but there's places to work. In 2005, when me and Devon and the WWE decided to go our separate ways, I just renamed the team to Team 3D, and then we conquered every other wrestling company on the planet that wasn't the WWE. We left for 10 years and made as great of a living outside of the WWE as we did in the WWE.
Oh, I remember one of your first matches after the WWE. That was the night I was supposed to shine, but my wife at the time screwed it all up because she couldn't get her butt in the ring that night, and then you just took over and started hitting everybody with like baking sheets or something. I was supposed to Nate, I was supposed to do this double suplex. It was very exciting. I was supposed to get, I was going to actually suplex a man with Bubba in the ring, and I was going to be on one side of it, and they taught me how to do it and everything. And all my wife at the time had to do was come in, and she missed her spot. And then Bubba takes over and starts hitting everybody in the head and changes the whole plan. Then he yells at me and tells me to stay outside. And I'm like, dream's crushed. Dream was crushed.
Wait, I'm not trying to be rude here, no. But was that the wife with the poop problem?
Yeah, Crystal. Yeah. Yeah, the one with the IBS or the irritable bowel syndrome. Yeah. Maybe that's why, Nate, that I've got such a problem with bathroom stuff. I hate bathroom humor. I can't stand it. These guys always wanted to talk about it on the radio. I'm like, there's no place for bathroom humor on the radio.
I'm not a big fan of it at all.
No, not at all. It's just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. All right, so you're going to win the Royal Rumble. That's cool.
Yeah.
You're going to go to WrestleMania. That's cool. We got the exclusive on that.
Yep.
Your liver's dead. What's wrong with your shoulder? You keep icing
I just got an email from People Magazine. I'm up for the sexiest man alive next year.
I could see that taking over for Paul Rudd. Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally could see that.
Yeah.
What happened to your shoulder?
The ruggedly handsome thing is back in. They don't like him smooth and pretty anymore.
Well, Paul Rudd put some 5 o'clock shadow on for the pictures that he tried to. It was funny because I'm a Paul Rudd fan. I love him. His acting, his comedy, everything about it. The Apatow crew, blah blah blah. But the pictures that he did looked like really bad Owen Mills glamour shots. Like they put a little scrub on his face and had him like greased up a little bit. I'm like, that's not Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd's the guy that you hug at Kmart and ask for a dime or something. He's not the guy that's going to stick up for you in the biker bar.
Newsflash, I have no idea who Paul Rudd is. I know Phil Rudd is the drummer for AC/DC.
Paul Rudd. You name it. 40-year-old virgin. Nate, help me out. Go. This is 40. He's in like every Apatow movie.
Who was he in the 40-year-old virgin?
He was the guy that couldn't get over his ex-girlfriend, the girl from The Office.
And that guy's sexy?
He's the sexiest man alive, according to People Magazine.
Fuck him. Who'd he ever beat?
He was My Idiot Brother, right? He's in that.
Anchorman.
Anchorman. Yeah, Anchorman. He's an Anchorman. Classic.
I'm way sexier than that dude.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, he's already gotten the title. You got to beat him out for it.
285 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal, brother.
So I went... Bubba Ray and I have always gone back on the best comedy of all time. He's wrong when he says Caddyshack. Not to say Caddyshack's not a good comedy, but Fletch is the greatest comedy of all time. You can shake your head all you want. So I finally got to. I was trying to. Chevy Chase was doing these Q&As during Christmas for the Christmas Vacation, and he shows up and he's just not in the best of health, and he's got a guy that does the Q&A. I tried to do it. They said no. And I went and I saw it. And I got to tell you, I thought about you there because you and I always go back and forth with Chevy Chase, but I've never realized how much of a cult following Christmas Vacation has, that people that went and watched the movie, like you're watching it with Chevy Chase kind of sort of, they were saying the words out loud during the movie. Like everybody knew what to do at the same time. They don't have that for Caddyshack. Again, that's what makes Chevy Chase and the Vacations and the Fletches so big. That's my point.
Yeah, Caddyshack blows Fletch out of the water and Vacations out of the water. Caddyshack is the greatest comedy of all time, period. End of story.
Actually, more to my point is without Chevy Chase, you couldn't have had Caddyshack, but you could have had Fletch, who you did have Fletch without Rodney Dangerfield.
So?
No, I'm just saying. He's got one and, does anybody else understand what I'm saying? Brandon, you get it, right?
No, not really.
He's dumb. He's an idiot. What happened to your shoulder? I asked you before. You got ice in it. Keep icing it.
I have a pinched nerve because I was showing off in the gym.
Oh, yeah? Getting ready for the Royal Rumble.
I was getting ready for the Rumble, brother.
Yeah.
But nothing's going to stop me now. It's just an injury. I'm not a spring chicken, so I got to be a lot more careful in the gym.
Well, didn't you just have a wrestling match with like Jerry the King Lawler or something? Did you wrestle Braun Strowman, right?
Epic fail too. I beat him with the pile driver, but I did not put him through the table. Strongest table I have ever met in my life. There I am before the match, and I'm like, I guarantee you, Jerry Lawler, that I'm putting you through a table, brother. End of the match, I set up the table, I go to body slam him through it, he bounced right off. I was like, what the frick? I was like, okay, I got to do it again. Boom, he bounced off the second time too. I was like, screw this pile driver. And I just drove him and beat him. Strongest table ever. That wood was not splitting. After the match was over, I stood the table up in the corner. I flipped the table off and then I threw it down on its side. And I don't ever want to hear from that table again.
So when you guys went to the back, what did you say to him?
We laughed.
Yeah, it's just like whatever.
We just laughed. You know what? Jerry's like 71 years old. After it didn't break the first time, I should have never done it the second time. The crazy thing is, I actually thought about laying him out on the table and climbing to the top rope and giving him like a frog splash. Well, with me, it'd be more of a whale splash off the top rope, but I probably would have killed him. And the guy already survived one heart attack in the ring. So, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say he's up there in age. You know, I was surprised that you guys were even wrestling, but you also, didn't you wrestle a tag team with somebody in Braun Strowman? Did you wrestle?
Well, when does this podcast drop?
A couple weeks or the week next, or no, Friday, this Friday.
This Friday?
Yeah, this Friday.
Okay, well then tomorrow night, if you're listening right now,
perfect.
Tomorrow night I will be, me and Enzo Amore will be teaming up in Poughkeepsie, New York at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center to take on Braun Strowman and Eric Rowan, formerly of the Wyatt family from the WWE.
Yeah, that's why we're actually outside of just wanting to talk to you and have you on the podcast, because just your name alone is going to get us all these subscribers. But we strategically planned it to air today so we could get more people out to the match, because our audience there, that place is huge, right?
Yeah, thanks for getting me over, brother.
It's just what I do. It's my pleasure.
It's what I do.
It's just what I do, man. Well, I'll leave you with this because I know you got to go. But there's we're adding some new content to this project on Saturdays. I'm going and grabbing some old audio from my shows. Now, again, for those that don't know, my relationship with Bubba Ray, he was on my show in Orlando, all my shows in Orlando and Tampa, blah, blah. So we have history. And there was one thing that we had done when I first started at Real Radio in Orlando. It was with an intern I had at the time, Ponch. And Ponch went to Bubba's school and ended up going through a table, and he was injured for like 3 days afterwards. And the audio from that show, I'm sure I still have it, is fucking hilarious, because Ponch was kind of like this, not the brightest Hispanic guy. He's kind of like Brandon with an EL in front of his name. You know, it's just like, you know, like, it's like that cartoon drunk kind of fat Hispanic guy you see like on TV. So it was funny, but you remember that, right? Putting Ponch to the table.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, that was good. So I'll try to find that audio to put out there. All right. Busted Open, Sirius XM, Fight Nation, channel 158. If you have
156.
Is it 150? You should talk to Google, man. They said 158. I'm
a 24-time World Tag Team Champion,
right,
and Fight Nation is on channel 156.
156. So you're trying to tell me Google's wrong, that it's I don't pay attention because it's one of my presets, truth be told. So let me ask you this then. If Google's wrong, if you type in, is Bully Ray retired, what is the answer?
I am as retired as I want to be at the current moment.
Well, after 26 years of pro wrestling, Bully Ray retired in 2017, according to Google.
Well, that was part of a storyline in which I hooked everybody hook, line, and sinker.
Okay, well, here's another.
I did a retirement angle based on concussions. And the smartest wrestling fans in the world in Ring of Honor, the ones that you can't fool, all had the wool pulled over their eyes.
These aren't questions that I typed in, but you know, when you go to Google and you have, you put your name and then it gives other questions and stuff. Here's another one. Is Bubba Ray Dudley a nice guy? What do you think Google answered with?
You know, I'm a nice guy.
I know you're a great guy. This is what Google says. Whether as a tag team specialist or as a singles wrestler, Bubba always managed to capture the attention of the audience through his excellent promos to his aggressive in-ring style. However, even though he was a fan favorite, he wasn't always a particularly nice guy, and plenty of times he did some despicable things, according to Google. Have you ever read that about yourself?
No. I don't read Google about myself.
Here's another one. Is Velvet Sky still with Billy Ray?
Billy Ray Cyrus? I didn't know they were dating.
Me neither. But according to Billy Ray, no. I'm just telling you what Google says.
Just telling you what Google said.
How much are the Dudley boys worth? What do you think Google says?
How much is our net worth combined?
Yeah, but it focuses more on you. Actually, it's all
$5 million.
Bubba Ray Dudley net worth. Bubba Ray Dudley is an American professional wrestler and radio talk show host who has a net worth of $3 million. Losing 2.9 of it in a salon business that went bad.
That was funny. That's a really good one.
I'm going to end with that one. I'm not even going to.
So wait, what was the combined net worth?
$3 million. But they just talked about you. They didn't talk about
No. Combined, it's significantly more.
Okay, but I'm just,
and the $3 million is low on me, brother.
I'm just telling you what Google says.
Stop believing everything you read. You're smarter than that.
They also took into consideration a failed smoothie shop that Devon once had.
Botch that. Hey, what are they going to name the Redskins?
I think the Admirals or Renegades. I think it's one of those two.
You know, I thought Warriors would be a great name because when I think of Native Americans, and you know me being friends with Dan Carr, the original creator of American Gladiators, a proud Apache, if we didn't like the name Redskins for whatever reason, I would like to hear the Washington Warriors.
Warriors is good. I think I remember saying something like, I like the Warriors. I mean, if they really want to go like the Sentinels, like in the replacements, like you can totally, people love that kind of nostalgia stuff. I mean, look at the Mighty Ducks, right? So the hockey team, the Sentinels would have been good, or the Senators, or, something that you take from DC, but I guess that people will be like, that's too political. I don't know, but I know that there are certain Native Americans that have a problem. I am in no position to say what is right and what is wrong. I know that Apache Dan, who was one of the most intimidating men you could ever meet, but once you get to know him, he's the nicest man you'll ever meet. When I first met him, my dumbass showed up wearing a Washington Redskins jersey, and I was quickly talked to by Apache Dan, this very large man, like how I should not be wearing this jersey, and I had no problem taking it off right away.
A proud Apache Dan, 2-time world champion arm wrestler. Yes.
How's he doing? Is he still good?
He's great. He's at the school in Florida every single day.
Yeah. He was not only one of the creators of the original American Gladiators, but
he was the original creator of American Gladiators.
He also was the supposed to be the bull guy in Over the Top, the Sylvester Stallone movie, right?
Bull Hurley. He was supposed to be Apache Dan Carr, but he fell 70 feet off the irons and was in a full body cast. So the part went to Rick Zumwalt.
And another thing about Dan, and of course you know this, but there probably is a family tree with Dan somewhere in the nucleus of it that helps, like, promotions like the UFC get to where they're at today. I saw the documentary of the underground fight scene in the 80s, which he was a part of in New York. And I mean, this was
Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I mean, this was some hardcore shit. I mean, you're like in this small room with a very low ceiling with no gloves, no tape, no nothing. And these very mean men just beating the shit out of each other. And he was a part of that scene.
It's the original Tough Man competitions that he was a big part of, big sponsor of, responsible for putting it all together. And the original Tough Man competitions was just show up and fight.
Right.
And that's it.
And a lot of people don't realize that that's how the UFC started. Their first, UFC 1 and 2, when Horace Gracie and, was the idea was, can you take a mixed martial artist and beat a bruiser in a bar? And that's what you wanted to see. It's blood sport, right? And then when it started to become popular and generating money, that's when rules started to be put in, which is good because if not, people are going to start dying. But yeah, it started in the 80s, and I didn't know that. I saw the documentary on it. It was fascinating. I had known Dan for a long time through you. Had no idea he was so big into that stuff back in the day.
Great man.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Again, Busted Open, Sirius XM, channel 156. Thanks, Google. Thanks for coming on. Good talking to you. You look great. I'll watch you on TV at the Royal Rumble, and all's good.
Thanks for having me. Good luck with your podcast, and I'll be your first guest after I win the Royal Rumble.
Look at that. You just see this show going like this, right? Like right before our eyes in real time. Just take it off.
You could have me after the Rumble, or you could have me after I defeat Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
There's a good possibility the way technology is we could probably put an earpiece in your ear while you're doing the wrestling.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, dude. Thanks for coming on. Talk soon.
Thanks, bud.